I'm putting together this video for the HWH leveling jacks workaround, and looking at all these videos to splice them all together and edit stuff out. I just wanted to preempt this, that all the things I speak about, the pressure switch, it turns out that you do not need to hook that up. That is completely for something different than I thought. I'll tell you in the end of the video, but the pressure switch function has nothing to do with it, but you'll see that in the end of the video. So I'll piece this together and you'll see what it is, but the wiring diagram that's posted is correct. This is a conversion video to update your HWH leveling system in a 1996 Wonder Lodge. This video is pieced together, so this I wanted to give you before I started putting stuff back together. My control box was acting up, as well as the keypad, so I'm doing a workaround here to get rid of all that stuff. So here's the basic stuff you're gonna need. We have this 6 relay box with some fuses. I got a positive bus bar, a negative bus bar, terminal strip. These are just some LED lights to bench test it. Over here is the actual control box that you're gonna press the buttons on. It has 2 5 lead cables coming out of it. You need 10 wires. Here's the other ends of these. But I was gonna screw this together, so I wanted to show you what it looked like inside. It has 2 on-off switches and 4 momentary 3-way switches. So if you turn this over, you know it's gonna be rear left, rear right, front left, front right. One's gonna be an on-off for the whole system, and the other one's gonna be a store button to have them all retract when you're done. So this is kind of it. I took a extra piece of carpeted shelf board that I had left over that I took out of a kitchen cabinet to mount this to. I'm probably just gonna mount it on the board right to the wall of the basement. Here's my wonderful tool bench. As usual, it's a mess, but we'll get on to the rest of it. All right, here's the setup for the leveling system. I got the cover on the box now with labels for the 4 corners. I got a store button and a power button. Got my relays all labeled left front, left rear, right rear. That's the store relay and the pressure switch relay. 2 bus bars, terminal switch. These LED lights I just put on there to bench test this. This is the signal out to the solenoid 1, 2, 3, and 4 solenoids. And then this last LED is the signal from the pressure switch. So you could have done this without the pressure switch, but I think if you didn't wire that up, you'd have some quick drops in the front and back of the coach when you're trying to push it up and down, because that does not let the up function work until the pump reaches 300 PSI. So if you just crack the solenoid and the pump was maybe at 1500 PSI, maybe the weight of the coach, it would not go up, it would actually sink. So that will not allow the up function until the pump reaches 3000 PSI. So that's why you have the pressure switch there. That's on the manifold down there that runs to ground. So all these, this is ground actuated, these 4. This one is ground actuated through the actual pressure switch on the manifold, grounds out the circuit. And the store is the only one that is positive actuated. Has a set of fuses for each one. Comes with this, has a cover that goes over the top. These have covers that go on them. I'll put a list on this Amazon list. You're all in for about $200, $225, less a bunch of connectors and maybe this terminal strip and things like that I already had. So maybe $250. This box, all the switches, everything came, and the wire, etc., all came off Amazon for about $225. So I'm gonna fire this thing up and hopefully we can watch this thing go. So this wire is the pressure switch down at the manifold. So when your pump reaches 3000 PSI, this thing grounds out and you can see that LED comes on. So the up function doesn't work. Well, here, let's turn this thing on first. So I got a blue LED for the power. I got a green for the store. So the up button will not work because the pressure switch isn't on. Obviously, I don't have this hooked to the pump. So if I ground this out, now the pressure switch is grounded. So now they all work in the up position. The down obviously works with the pressure switch on, but let's take the pressure switch off, and the down still works. Up doesn't work, but down works because you don't need pressure. You're just opening the solenoid to let the hydraulic fluid out, and the springs or the weight of the coach is pushing the cylinder back up, and then once it sits on the ground, the springs are gonna pull it up, so you don't need that pressure switch lockout on there. So you can see that since I don't have the pressure switch on, none of the ups work, but all the downs work. Okay, so we'll do it one more time. I'll ground out the pressure switch like it was grounded out down at the manifold once the pressure hit 3000 PSI. Now the up work. Obviously the down work all the time. All right, so I'm gonna pull that off. So now we're gonna go to the store function. The store function is a little bit, you'll look at the wiring diagram. All 4 of these yellow wires are off the 87A pin that are always connected to this blue wire, which is the 87. You'll look at the wiring diagram. I'm going to provide it on there and you'll figure it out. But basically, when you go to store, you want all 4 solenoids open and let the pump off, obviously. So we're going to hit the store button. Got our green light on. All 4 solenoids are open. The hydraulic fluid's leaking out. The bus is lowering down. Bus is on the ground. Now the springs are pulling the cylinders all the way up to like what we call the travel mode. The one drawback on this thing is there is no lockout for the safety. Each cylinder has a sensor on there that tells it it's out a couple of inches and don't drive. So when I had the regular keypad, I always put it in store, but I didn't sit there and watch the keypad to say, okay, you can travel now. I always got out and every time I look to make sure they're up. Even though the thing says they're up, I always get out and look. So to me, it doesn't really matter that there's not a light on here from the 4 sensors, 1 in each corner, that tell me that everything's up, because it doesn't matter. I'm going to get out and look. So now I'm dropping the bus. I'm outside looking around. Okay, they're all up. I'm going to come in, turn the store off. You can see now those are all off. And then I'm going to turn the power off. And we're done. So obviously if you pulled in, you dump the bus, turn the power on, and then you could do 2 at once. I usually we got to ground the pressure switch out here. Hold on a second. Okay, so the pressure switch is now grounded out because when I hit this button, it turns the pump on and the solenoid. So that pressure switch would be grounded as soon as the pump kicked in. So I'd pull in, I'd hit 2 ups in the front. I always just sit there until I feel the front 2 pads hit the ground. I can feel the bus move a little bit. Then I'd go to the 2 rear, down until that hit. Okay, then I have a bubble level on my floor there, and I just look at it and I say, oh, the right side's a little low. So I'm gonna hit those both at once. You gotta hit them simultaneously. You don't wanna twist the frame. So you always wanna go 2 sides, front or back at the same time. But you can see we could go up. We could go down a little bit if we needed to. Down a little bit, up, down a little bit in the back, up a little bit in the back. So there you have it. And then we could turn it off. Pressure switch light's still on, but let's turn it back on like we're leaving. Blue light's on. Then I'm gonna hit store. All 4 solenoids are open. The green light's on. Jacks come all the way up. Turn the store off. Turn the power off, and we're driving. So that's it. It's pretty bulletproof. These are, you know, bootleg Bosch relays. So if one of these went bad, you could put a regular Bosch relay in there. And these are regular fuses. So we'll go out and I'll show you how to hook it up to the bus. All this is going to be wired in. There's only, you know, there's 4 wires, 1 for each corner that you took off of your control box. It has a plug, but we're going to have to pull that plug off and put them into the terminal. So the 4 wires for the 4 corners. You're going to have to put a wire from your pressure switch. That's up right there where you took the box out. So all these wires are right there. There's a ignition, positive 12 volt ignition, which I'm just using this battery on my motorcycle here to jump it. But the 12 volt ignition wires down there. When you hit the on button here, it will fire the master relay that's connected to the pump. That is a big giant wire that'll come back up and connect to your bus bar. So that's what's going to power this whole system as soon as you hit on, not this clip from my motorcycle battery. So that wire is already coming up. You're only going to have to run 1 wire underneath. So all this wiring is going to be done right in the basement where the control box came off. You don't have to crawl underneath the bus, but you're going to have to crawl underneath the bus to alter how the master relay and the pump relay, there's 2 relays down there. The pump relay is a positive actuated system set up, grounded to the frame, and you're sending a positive signal down there to turn it on. Since all these switches are negative actuated, they're negative switched, we got to go down underneath, disconnect the ground from the frame, send a power down there, and I'm going to send that from the front of the bus with an extra slot, fuse slot up there under the ignition only positive. I'm going to send a positive down to the pump relay. So that'll be sitting down there positive, and as soon as I hit an up button, it's going to ground out the pump relay, and that's what's going to turn the pump on. So that's the only thing you have to do. It's 1 wire down below. You got to run 1 down in there, and then you got to clip the ground wire off the pump relay and put a positive on there. And then that positive wire that's already there running up to where this sits, that'll become a negative going down to actuate the pump. So that's where we're at. I'll show you where I'm going to mount all this stuff, but I'm probably going to get it all set up, and I'm just going to have this. I got a bunch of extra cord on this. I don't need that much. I'm going to cut it because I'm going to mount it inside. But for now, I'm just going to stand on the side of the bus and watch this thing do its thing. And then we'll clip the wires, take it all off here, and I'll got to go down and snake that wire through the bus. So there you have it. So like I said, this is going to be a pretty choppy video. So important things to note here. All these have the numbers on the back of them. So you can tell what pin is what. So this box, you can buy the box, the relays, all the spade connectors, all the fuses, but unassembled. Okay, so you have to crimp all the wires onto the spade connectors, insert them up inside the slots, etc., etc. I decided to buy the pre-wired one to save myself some time. There is the drawback that these wires are pretty big. These are like 10 gauge wires. These blue wires are like 10 gauge wires, like we were running 20 floodlights out of the front of our truck or something. So it's a little overdone. The signal wires are probably 12 or 14 gauge. My signal wires in those cords are 14 gauge. So if you wanted to wire it yourself, I would wire it all in 14 gauge probably. But I got the pre-wired one. So all these big wires are what they are. So the thing you need to remember though is, I pulled this out just so you can see, when this comes from the factory, it has the red wire and the 87A are connected all the time. When you energize it, the red wire goes to the 87. So it goes here to here when you turn it on, but when it's off, this and this are connected. In order for this to work, and I won't get too deep into it, but you have to pull the spade connectors out of the back and make the blue wire and the 87A wire always connected to make the store function work. So it's not a big deal, but you got to pull those spades out. You got to flip this and this, the red and the blue. You got to flip-flop them. Okay, so that's part of the deal. All my signal wires, which is the black positive, are actually, I stripped a little bit of the housing off, wrapped the wire, soldered in, and shrink wrapped it so you can't see it, but all my black wires for the 4 solenoids are already spliced into positive before they get here. So the red wire goes to the blue wire, but I also got the black wire running to the red wire. But you're gonna have to figure that out. There's no use for the center pin in these two, so I took it completely out. I'm not going to pull this thing off the board right now, but when it comes, all 5 wires have this silicone seal pressed up in there. So you got to put a pointed screwdriver or something, pry this up out, and then I just took a straight edge razor blade and slit it and pulled this thing completely out of all of them. It's great if it was under the hood of your truck and keep it nice and watertight, but down in the basement of the bus, you're not going to need this waterproof silicone thing. So I'm not going to put it back in. It's just too much of a pain in the ass. So yeah, you're going to have to, on these 4, the red pin and the blue pin are going to have to flip-flop. There goes my relay. They're going to have to flip-flop. So you are going to have to do that. You don't need a special tool. I just use this pointed, awl or whatever. And if you just go down into that open spot there and push down very lightly, there's a little piece of the copper spade connector that's like a hook. You just slightly push it down and then the wire will pull right out the back. Pull both those out and flip-flop them on these 4. So here I am underneath the bus. I routed a new power wire from the front breaker panels on the front of the bus. I drilled a hole right next to the wiper fluid hose and dropped this yellow wire down that I'm going to hook up to a accessory fuse up there. So here's your pump. That's the master relay. That's the pump relay. The master relay has this nice fat cord with a fuse on it that goes up to the where the control box is. This is going to hook to the 12 volt master bus bar that I'm putting in there. So the problem here is this is positive actuated, so it's grounded to the frame. And when you hit the on switch on the control panel, this will turn on. This from the battery will go right to the pump relay, and it'll also go up to the bus bar. But this is negative grounded too, but since we're negative actuating the pump relay, I got to get rid of this ground, okay, because I need a positive on there. So this yellow wire is going to hook to their positive when the accessories turn on, ignition switch, and then when I hit the on button on the control panel, it'll ground this out, energize this, and turn the pump on. So that's where we're at. as long as we're down here. Here's the manifold. That's the pressure switch. So that's the thing that I talked about. It needs to reach 3,000 PSI before this grounds itself out and sends a signal up that lets the solenoids turn on for the going up position. That ground is switched on and off by this pressure switch. There's your 4 solenoids for the front, back, left, and right. So there it is. The ground wire I clipped, and then I spliced this yellow wire on here. That's going to go up to a fuse in the front, fuse bay in the front of the bus. I'll show that in a minute. All right, here we are under the bus. The wiring's a little hokey. I'm going to clean it up a little bit. I was confused on which solenoid was which because this 10 amp fused wire was supposed to come off the master relay, but have it hooked up to the pump relay. I mean, it does the same thing. As soon as the master turns on, the 12 volt from the battery and the big wire goes over there and fires up the bus bar up top. But anyway, this is positive fired, so you don't change any of the wiring on that. There was a ground wire on the frame of the motor that goes to the motor or pump relay, and then it looped over and grounded this out. So I cut the wrong wire, so basically I reconnected the ground that was already there, goes back around and connects to the frame. That's grounded out here. It has a positive signal. The pump has to have a negative signal now, so this is the wire that I ran from the front load center and put a fuse on the accessory panel on the front load center. So that's hot when you turn the key on. And then the hot that used to fire this already runs up to where all the panel is. So you don't have to run any more wires. You just change that positive wire as a ground activated to the pump solenoid. So that's the one wire you have to run. You know, you can get it in here right underneath your step. So here's the front of the bus. I put a wire snake through this back of this carpet into the middle cabinet where the CB is, and then pulled this wire through. There's 2 of them. This plug panel here had an extra hole in the steel panel, so I just peeled this back and put a grommet in there and sent that through. If you go around inside of the bus, you can see that there's the control panel. I took this off below the stereo. You can see light down there. I kind of went in and to the left to snake those wires. All right, here's the final project. Everything's worked out. Everything works. Bus bar for the ground, bus bar for the 12 volt positive. The relays are all in that pack. Terminal switch, most of those wires come from up inside the bus. We'll work that out. The pressure switch relay that I spoke of earlier during the test trials and all this stuff, it turns out I read that wrong in the HWH manual. That 3,000 PSI pressure switch, which was right here, actually is a signal not from the pump building up pressure to make the jacks work, but it's actually puts on the excessive slope light on your digital keypad. So basically, if it can't auto level and one jack is all the way out, the PSI will build up to 3,000 PSI and then send a signal to the old computer to turn the pump off. So I abandoned that whole ground fired PSI switch to fire the pump. So this will be an extra relay in case something goes out. That's just sitting in there. That's a spare. So these all get cover goes over the top on that, and the bus bars all get a cover, ground, and positive we're going to cover. So that's where we're going to be at. The covers are all on. Just to make one more note, I left all the wires and clips on here in case somebody wanted to come back, I don't know, and put the old system back in. But these go out to the pumps, to the jacks themselves, for the sensing switches to know that they're out. One's for the automatic leveling mercury switch or whatever's in that box up there, somewhere back there. But anyway, that's it all finished up. I'm gonna make some sort of aluminum cover just to cover this all up so nothing rips a wire out. All right, finished project. Keep the controller in this door with the CV. One-handed video here, pardon me. It's gonna come out like that. I got my bubble level I use right here. Gonna turn the power on. Oh, gotta turn the key on. And you just and then you want to store them. You just put the store light on or button, and all the solenoids are open right now. It's all just going to suck up inside. When it's all done on that, you just turn the store off, turn the power off, and shove it back in the hole. Put your bubble level away.